and welcome back to Every Naval Battle in History. My name's John, and I've joined, thankfully, by the wonderful Carl Zar, who's going to help us with the Chinese history, because today we're tackling the Battle of Red Cliffs, which was fought, oh my god, I've stuffed this up, 208 AD, or BCE, or CE, sorry, on the Yangtze River in China. Carl, hello and welcome.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, it's been a little wait, but I realise, you didn't want to go off half-cocked in this, because this is one of these seminal moments in Chinese history. I don't know, I mean, it's probably would easily be in the top 5, wouldn't it?
Oh, indeed. This is like one of the most famous naval battle in China, and its outcome shaped Chinese history for the years to come. So, yeah, we definitely wanted to treat it with the respect it deserves.
Yeah, care and respect. I mean, for other listeners, this would be the equivalent of an English person talking about the Battle of Trafalgar. It's really, really important. But okay, in the last episode we did on the Three Kingdoms, we covered a lot of the lead up into the collapse of the Han Dynasty and the rise of the Three Kingdoms. Although I note that the Battle of Red Cliffs, while it's associated with the Three Kingdoms period intensely, actually occurred sometime before the formal beginning of the Three Kingdoms period.
In fact, the battle itself, the outcome of battle decided it's going to be Three Kingdoms. It's not just going to be one.
And with that out of the way, Carl, where are you going to start us off?
Okay, so we're going to introduce some new characters. I mean, last time we already, when we covered the battle of Saxian between Sun Ce and Huang Zhu, we already introduced two factions that's going to remain relevant. So we introduced the faction of the Sun family and the faction from Jinzhou, the Jin prefecture, Liu Biao. So I'm going to introduce a couple new characters on both sides. So last time where we left off is in 200 AD or 200 BCE, Sun Ce, at the tender age of 24, he carved out an empire in the southeastern parts of China. So this area is equivalent of today, stretching from Shanghai to Wuhan. So everything south of Yangtze River and east of Wuhan, all the way to the sea, that huge swath of area fall under Sun Ce's control. Now, around 200 AD, something very important is happening in northern China. Two powerful warlords are facing off across in the Yellow River. It's warlord Cao Cao and warlord Yuan Shao. Their battle, the Battle of Guandu, is going to determine who is going to be the master of northern China. So at this time, Sun Ce, he already carved a little empire. He wanted to join in the fray, because both Yuan Shao and Cao Cao are sending in feelers trying to get him on their side. And this is the time when Sun Ce sent in the memorial to the Han Imperial Court detailing the naval battle he led at Saxian. That's the primary source for our last episode. It's Sun Xian's memorial to the Imperial Court detailing what he did.
I was going to say, I was really impressed by that in that previous episode, and it's something that Westerners don't quite understand is how voluminous the Chinese imperial records still are. It's an incredible resource for you.
Yes. So Sun, we have to introduce a couple of new characters for this battle of Chibi. One important character is none other than Sun Ce's BFF, best friends forever, Zhou Yu. So back in the days when the Sun family patriarch, the Tiger of Jiangdong, Sun Jian, was answering the call of a coalition to march against the capital Luoyang to overthrow the tyrant Dong Zhuo. Sun Jian placed his family to move his family to a safe place, and the place that he moved his family happened to be the hometown of Zhou Yu, So the Sun family and the Zhou family, they became neighbors. And the Zhou family also has a son that's the same age as Sun Ce. So Sun Ce at this time was about 13, 14 years old. But he was already a tall, big young man, very handsome, very outgoing. And the Zhou family also has a son named Zhou Yu, and the two boys are 1 month apart, and both of them are tall, handsome, athletic, extrovert, outgoing. So they became fast friends. And the Zhou family has been a gentry in the area for a long time. The Zhou Yu's great-grandfather served with the great-grandfather of Yuan Shao and Yuan Shu, one of the two of the most important warlords at the time. And the Yuan family has been an important clan serving the imperial family for ages. So they're very tight with the imperial bureaucracy. And so by the time Zhou Yu came of age, because his family's tie with the Yuan clan, he went to serve Yuan Shu, and Yuan Shu appointed Zhou Yu at tender age of 20 as a local magistrate. That's how. So keep in mind, this is about 800 years before China had its famous imperial service, civil service exam. So back then in Han Dynasty, all the official position is by recommendation. So it's all the old boys network, patronage and nepotism. So that's how Zhou Yu at age 20 became a local magistrate.
And it's worth noting, magistrate is one of those titles that it's always somewhat important, but in some parts of the world, sometimes it's really important. And I think that's what we're talking about here. It's basically he's running the province, isn't he?
He running a county, a local county. Yeah. So he's like the head of the county. He's both the head of the administration, but also serve as a judge. And a military commander. So he has all the power in one. So Zhou Yu, as a new magistrate, his main job is to get supplies for Yuan Shu's troops. So he went to the villages to requisition grain. And him and his men come upon this large estate, and he was probably expecting some resistance, because but to his surprise, the person came out to meet him is someone even younger than himself. It's a 17-year-old youth, who is also tall and athletic build. And he said, "Oh, okay, my family have these 2 granary that are full. You can go ahead have that one." And so Zhou Yu's first assignment was made exceptionally easy by this 17-year-old, and the two sat down and became fast friends because they're both jocks. They're in American slang, they're both jocks. They're tall, athletic guys, outgoing. And this young
men of similar social station do tend to bond quickly, don't they?
Yes. And so this 17-year-old is by the name of Lu Su.
Right.
Now the Lu clan is also a powerful local gentry, but Lu Su, he doesn't really care about tending to the family business. He from a young age, he liked to spend the family fortune to recruit young men of leaning toward sword fighting and martial arts, and he had them train. He had them practice sword fighting and train in fighting formations. And his clan elder used to say, "Oh, this guy is this kid is gonna lead our clan to ruins." Now, in a normal, peaceful time when the imperial court had full, strict control down to the county level, that might have been the case. But this was an exceptional time. The Han Dynasty is collapsing. There's bandits everywhere. So it turns out Lu Su's local private militia became very useful, and so he soon assumed a lot of the responsibility in the clan, responsible for the defense of their family estate, and when he became so when he became friends with Zhou Yu, and Yuan Shu later also heard about Lu Su's fame. So Yuan Shu appointed Lu Su to be a magistrate of the local area as well. But Lu Su at this time, he realized, he very quickly find out that under Yuan Shu's administration, it's pretty lawless. I mean, everything, it's still pretty chaotic. So he told his followers and his family, his clans, it's like, look, now the all under heaven is in chaos. In the north, the fighting already began, and where we are, they were in the Huai River Valley. We're gonna be the next if we don't plan ahead. I have heard the south of Yangtze River is relatively stable. We should move our family fortune down there while we still have a family fortune. So he organized the entire clan, about more than 300 people, to old and young, to be moved to the south of the river. Now Yuan Shu, of course, did not want to see them go, so he sent troops after them. And Lu Su, he and his a contingent of young men were guarding the rear. So he met these Yuan Shu's troops. He said, "Look, you guys are all men. You should do great deeds. But right now, under Yuan Shu, you are not awarded when you accomplish something, when you have achievement. On the other side, you're not punished when you don't have achievement, when you don't met your goals. So what is the point? Why you forcing? Why do you have to force us?" And having said that, he also ordered his men to bring out a large shield. A large sturdy shield, and then he took his bow and arrow and he shot right at the shield, and his arrow went right through the shield. And the Yuan Shu soldiers saw that. They say, "Okay, well, maybe this is not worth our time, to tangle with this guy." So they let them go. And when Lu Su made his way across the river, at that time Sun Ce already was starting to carve up his empire with the help of his buddy Zhou Yu. So Zhou Yu recommended Lu Su to Sun Ce, and Sun Ce was going to appoint Lu Su to some important position. But this time Lu Su's grandmother died. Now Lu Su's own father died while he was very young, so Lu Su was raised by his own grandmother. And in China, it's customary back in those days, when someone in your family died, you guard their tomb for 3 years.
It's 3 years?
Yeah, 3 years.
Wow.
You don't take a new official position, you don't take a new job, you just guard the tomb for 3 years as a show of your filial piety. So he declined Sun Ce's offer. He went back to his hometown to guard his grandmother's tomb. Now, in those 3 years while he was guarding his grandmother's tomb, Sun Ce and Zhou Yu, they conquered much of the Southland and built a foundation for the future Wu kingdom. And at this time, Lu Su's other good friend sent words for him, say like, "Oh, look, we have a lot of men here. We really appreciate it if you come join us." So Lu Su was already considering to go, but Zhou Yu already moved Lu Su's family, his mother, to the Wu territory. And then Zhou Yu told Lu Su, like, "Look, this is a time now when the world is in chaos. It's just like the founder. He was citing a precedent, ancient history from the founding of the Eastern Han Dynasty 200 years ago. He said back then the General Ma Yuan told the founder of the Eastern Han Dynasty that now when all is chaos under heaven, not only the ruler has the right to choose his subject, but the subject also has a right to choose his ruler to serve." And
which is a really interesting principle that a lot of people would quite like to have that option, wouldn't we?
Yes, yes. And and Zhou Yu told him, like, look, at this time, you do not want to go with someone who is weak, right? This person, other friends might be your good friends, but, what's the point of joining the weaker side? Whereas Sun Ce, he is an exceptional young man with exceptional talent. And he already established his domain. And on top of that, I am your good friend. You already have a lead in. You come here, we already have a position for you. So, that sealed the deal. And then Lu Su start to make his way to the Wu territory. So right around this time, Sun Ce managed to get himself killed because he so this has happened right after where our last episode left off. So the Battle of Sashan happened in 200. So at this time, Sun Ce was very confident. He was about to lead his army north to attack Cao Cao in the rear, but in his process of conquering territory, Sun Ce made a lot of enemies. One of the former prefect, he didn't like the fact that Sun Ce just took a control by force, so he wrote a letter to petition the Han court, and he said, Sun Ce is like a tiger. If you let him roam wild in the Southland, this is very dangerous. The best way to deal with him is to grant him imperial titles. Ask him to go to the capital himself to serve as a minister. This way, you remove him as a threat. And at this time, of course, the imperial court is controlled by Cao Cao, right? The emperor was just a figurehead, But this letter was intercepted by Sun Ce's soldiers. So Sun Ce confronted the guy, and the guy denied it. But Sun Ce was so mad, and he had the guy executed. But the guy had a bunch of loyal retainers who decided to take revenge on Sun Ce, and they plotted to ambush Sun Ce while he was on his hunting trip. Now Sun Ce, he has a very good horse, so and he loved to hunt. Because for him, hunting and fighting war is almost the same, and but his horse is very good horse, so he often left his followers behind on the way to hunt. So when he chanced upon three men dressed in Wu soldier uniform, so he asked them, "Hey, what are you guys doing here?" They're like, "Oh, we are General Han Dang's troops," and Sun Ce said, "I know all of Han Dang's men. I never seen you guys before." So the other three saw the covers up. They're about to attack. So they start to attack Sun Ce, and Sun Ce grabbed his bow and arrow and shot the closest guy.
I got to say, Carl, that's very impressive because these armies are tens of thousands of soldiers. So it's quite something to be able to identify them all.
Yeah, well, at this time, Sun Ce conquered the Southland with 3,000 soldiers he borrowed from Yuan Su. And General Han Dang, probably have maybe like 500 men under him. So it's possible Sun Ce knows a lot of people in the camps, and so he shot the closest man, but the other guy shot Sun Ce in the face with an arrow. So Sun Ce had to, with an arrow in the face, try to fend off the two other guys with his bow. And by this time, Sun Ce's followers finally arrive, and they cut down the two remaining assassins to pieces. But the arrow tip was poisoned, and Sun Ce's wound was infected. So at this time, Sun Ce was 5 months shy of his 25th birthday. So he had, as he lay dying, he started to prepare his, he started to lay down his will. Now Sun Ce has two full brothers. His youngest brother, the third brother, is most like Sun Ce in temperament. So everybody want Sun Ce to pass the leadership to his youngest brother, but instead Sun Ce chose his second brother, Sun Quan, who at the time was 18 years old. Now Sun Quan was Sun Quan was basically stay behind most of the time, but when he was 15, Sun Ce was the leading army to pacify the bandits in the surrounding areas, while left Sun Quan at home. But then their home base was surrounded by thousands of rebels, and at that time, because Sun Quan was 15-year-old, and his bodyguard Zhou Tai, to protect him, suffered 17 wounds on his sword cut on his body. But Sun Quan survived, and ever since he follows Sun Ce on his campaigns. Sun Quan was with Sun Ce in our last episode in the Battle of Saxian.
Gotcha.
But at this time, Sun Quan is only 18-year-old. But Sun Ce told him, he said, like, look, if leading an army into the field of battle, I am better than you. But spotting talent, delegating tasks, and ruling the land with a fair hand, you are better than me.
And those are all the really important things. Yep.
So I am passing my legacy and our father's legacy and entrusting them into your hands. And after saying that, a few days later, Sun Ce passed away at tender age of 24. And so at this time, 18-year-old Sun Quan, he spent one day and one night just bawling, just crying on Sun Ce's body. And then finally, his advisor Zhang Zhao came into the tent. He told Sun Quan, so like, look, you have been entrusted with a great responsibility by your brother. And the best way to honor your brother's memory is to preserve his legacy. Now is not the time for you to act as an ordinary man just to seek release of your emotions. Now there's a lot of fear and uncertainty among our men. Your first job is to assuage their fears. So Sun Quan thought that's correct. So he stopped crying, put on his armor, got on his horse, and he made a run in the camp, and just to let people know now he's in charge.
It's a delicate balancing act rulers have to do in these situations where they're inheriting leadership, isn't it? Because the troops would have been very upset if he was immediately like, oh, who cares? I'm in charge now. So you have to be seen to mourn, but you can't do it too long either.
Yeah, and also a lot of these followers, they were followers of Sun Ce, right? They did not sign up to be led by Sun Quan.
Exactly.
So Sun Quan has to kind of show his own leadership skills. And in fact, for the next several years, Sun Quan had faced a lot of internal rebellions. He had to put on bandits, revolts. But eventually, he, with help of, before Sun Ce died, he told Sun Quan, so like, look, Zhang Zhao can help you with civil administration. Now, for military affair, you can trust Zhou Yu. Zhou Yu is like a brother to me, and you can have full trust in him, because Zhou Yu and Sun Ce, they married two sisters, right? When they took when they took Qiao's sisters, Sun Ce married the older one, the Da Qiao, the big Qiao, and the Zhou Yu married Xiao Qiao, little Qiao. So they're not just friends, but they're also now related by marriage. So Sun Ce says, you can trust Zhou Yu in military matters. And in civil administration, you can trust Zhang Zhao. And then soon after Sun Quan finally managed to stabilize his realm, they got a letter. They got a letter from Cao Cao. So Cao Cao had, by this time, he had successfully dealt with Yuan Shao in another epic battle of Guandu. It's another one where Cao Cao was vastly outnumbered, but he managed through his strategy to decisively defeat the strongest warlord in northern China, Yuan Shao.
It's funny how Cao Cao's often better when he's outnumbered. When he's got the majority is when things get a bit sketchy for him.
He got sloppy, yeah. And so Cao Cao defeated Yuan Shao. then he started to turn his attention to the south, and he turned is in year 202, so just 2 years after Sun Ce passed away. Cao Cao made a demand that Sun Quan send his family as hostage to the imperial court. And so Sun Quan asked Zhou Yu and his mom for consultation. Now, at this time, Zhang Zhao, the civil advisor, he's kind of flip-flopping on this thing. Only person who resolutely opposed is Zhou Yu. Because Zhou Yu said, like, look, he was again citing historical precedents. He said back in the Warring States period, the state of Chu, when they first started, their land is less than 50 square kilometer all the way across. But later they were able to grow, expand, and finally they took over almost entire southern China. And they lasted 900 years. Now today, you, General Sun Quan, you are in a much better position. You have your brother give you a much firmer foundation. You have the entire southeastern seacoast, and our land is fertile. We have a lot of troops. And now after we put down the revolts, now we have we have internal cohesion, and on top of that, our land is very rich in resources. We have copper mines. We have we can produce salt, so we don't need anybody else. And right now, what's the point to send a refuge to Cao Cao's court? Because if once we send in a hostage, if Cao Cao now we have to obey our Cao Cao's command. Otherwise, we jeopardize your family members, right? And then at most you could be is a vassal of Cao Cao. You have maybe several tens of servants, several chariot, several horses. I mean, that does not compare with what you have now. Now you're basically a king in your own land.
Yeah, and I suppose the other real danger is once you accept that you're a vassal of the, not quite the emperor, but, is that they can take your lands away from you once you've brought yourself into the system.
Yes, and so Zhou Yu says, there's no need to send in hostage right now. We'll just wait and see what happens. If Cao Cao really can take over, unite all under heaven, then by then we can still submit. It's not too late. We don't have to jump the gun here. It's
a bit like Argentina entering World War II in March 1945.
Exactly. So Sun Quan's mom also agreed. He said, yes, Zhou Yu is correct. Zhou Yu is the same year as your brother Sun Ce. I look at him as my own son. You should treat him as your older brother. So in the end, Sun Quan agreed with Zhou Yu. They didn't send hostage to Cao Cao, and so then Sun Quan then spent next 8 years after he pacified his realm. He tried to pick up where his brother started, which is leading expedition against Huangzu, the man who killed their father Sun Jian, right? So Huangzu was defeated in our last episode in Battle of Saqian, but Sun Ce didn't manage to hold that area. Because at that time, Sun Ce's original goal was to chase, to stabilize his own new holdings. He wasn't about to expand, but now Sun Quan wanted to expand because, especially after Zhou Yu introduced Lu Su to him. So Lu Su is closer in age than Sun Quan because Lu Su is 3 years younger than Zhou Yu, and so he's only 3 years older than Sun Quan. They became Lu Su and Sun Quan became BFF, best friends forever. And Sun Quan would often ask Lu Su to stay in his tent, and they will drink and talk. And one thing that
sorry, Carl, can I just ask you with something like that? With the modern focus, when you hear about two guys sharing a tent, people just assume there might be some, let's say, intimacy. With these ancient Chinese sources, it's more just they wanted to stay up playing dice and drinking, or what?
Yeah. I mean, like it's a different different type of masculinity back in the ancient China. I mean, like it's common to have the male to have the close bond. That's not necessarily sexual. And so they so while they're drinking, the Sun Quan said, like now with the legacy of his brother, he wanted to one day accomplish the deeds of now he's referring back to ancient Chinese history. He wanted to accomplish the deeds of Duke Huan of Qi and Duke Wen of Jin. These are noble hegemons from the spring-autumn period, like the period of Confucius. This is like 800 years removed from their time, 800 years ago. So he said, now you, Lu Su, you are coming to help me. And please advise me, how do I accomplish that? So Lu Su told Sun Quan, like, look, why do you have to settle for being a duke? You're right. The Han Dynasty founder started with much more humble origin, and it's my personal opinion, the Han Dynasty cannot be restored, and Cao Cao will not also go away anytime soon. So the best plan is to hold what we have in the southeast, and then wait for new opportunity. So now we use it. We neither bring hatred and fire of war to ourselves, and we also have we're self-sufficient. So because right now the north is where the war is happening, where the war's being fought over. But we can use this opportunity while everybody's attention is focused in the northern China. We will expand our realm. So right now our top priority is to vanquish Huangzu, who also happened to be the killer of your dad. And then after you take over Huangzu, you vanquish his overlord Liu Biao. That way you will control the entire Yangtze River Valley. And once we control the entire Yangtze, we have a very secure base. Now you will actually have the capital, if you want to take all under heaven. Then go to North China, declare yourself emperor if you want. And Sun Quan says this I will do my best, but maybe I won't be able to do as you say. Fast forward 8 years later, in 208, the prefect of Jinzhou province, Liu Biao, is laying dying. Now, Jinzhou province, people probably need to look at map. It's one of the largest. I'll have the maps coming up. Don't worry. Perfect. Jinzhou province is one of the largest prefecture during the Han Dynasty. It includes the modern day southern Henan, almost entirety of Hubei province, entirety of Hunan province, Mao's home province, and so it's huge. It's a huge area spanned like right in the middle of China, right? And it's the features of Jin Prefecture is two rivers, the Han River, the tributary Yangtze flowing from the north, and the Yangtze River cutting through it in the middle, and the Yangtze and the Han River meet at the place back then known as Xiakou, today's Wuhan, Wuhan, the city Wuhan today is where the Yangtze and the Han River meet. So that's a river, the Huangzhou. That's a Wuhan area. That's where Huangzhou held sway, and it's also that area where our last episode was fought over. And the naval battle of Sashan was fought near present day Wuhan. So Lu Su's advice is we sail upstream the Yangtze River, take over the present day Wuhan area, then you take over the entire Jin province, and once you have that, you have half of China already. But at this, the caveat is at this time, most of the Chinese population still live in the north, right?
Because the north's got the wheat growing regions. I mean, the sort of Chinese cowboys.
Yeah, but also at this time, because of the civil war happening in the north, a lot of refugees are coming south, just like Lu Su's own family. A lot of refugees coming to the south because south offers stability, and so when they heard Liu Biao, the prefect of Jin prefecture, lay dying, Lu Su said, "This is a great opportunity because." The land of Liu Biao is very fertile and it's very strategic. If we capture the Jin prefecture, now you have the capital to build an empire. And Liu Biao is dying, but his two sons never see eye to eye. And among Liu Biao's followers is split up into different factions, each following one son, and plus, also right now at Liu Biao's place is a famous vagabond named Liu Bei, and Liu Bei has personal enmity with Cao Cao. They have some personal beef. So right now Liu Biao never placed his trust in Liu Bei, only used Liu Bei as a buffer against Cao Cao. Now, if we can win Liu Bei's trust, form alliance with Liu Bei, and then, we can seize the opportunity to take over. And I volunteer myself to go to Jinzhou to find out, to see what's up.
Can I ask you, Carl? Liu Bei, I mean, obviously he became the first king of Shu, one of the three kingdoms, and in all the literature, he's kind of, it feels like he's been retconned to, his backstory's been buffed and bumped up. But at this point in proceedings, other than some mentioned in dispatches during the collapse of the Han dynasty, how did he have this following that was traipsing? I mean, they moved all around China. Didn't they, with this following of a small army and lots of peasant supporters?
Yeah. So we're jumping ahead, but
sorry.
Let's go there. No, let's go there because Liu Bei is interesting because his biggest claim to fame that is his imperial uncle, that he's from the imperial lineage. But if you actually examine when his direct ancestor was last a Han emperor, you have to go back 360 years.
Yeah, right.
So by then, so Liu Bei actually came from a very humble family. Like his father died very young, so he was surviving as a straw sandal mat weaver.
Yeah.
He was weaving straw mats, and so he came from the grassroots. But he was very charismatic. He got his break during the Yellow Turban Rebellion.
Yep.
And because at that time the imperial court issued a decree to organize local militias to fight Yellow Turban Rebellion. So Liu Bei got, because he's the type of the person that like to, even though he doesn't have a lot of money, but he like to make a lot of friends. And so he has a lot of he has a lot of friends and a lot of and because he potentially had this I'm of the imperial clan fame, some locals, notables, sometimes throw their support behind him, and then he also met he met and swore brotherhood with
Yep.
a very wealthy local butcher named Zhang Fei, and then another bandit, vagabond bandit Guan Yu. So these three,
The god of war, Carl. The god of war.
So anyway, so he, to make it short, Liu Bei was very charismatic, and so he attracted a following during the. He got his start in the Yellow Turban Rebellion. He led an army to fight. But in the end, because he wasn't like those well-connected clans like Sun family, like Sun Jian was very well-connected, and he just bribed some court eunuch and got his a title, official title. Liu Bei only got a very small assignment as a local magistrate. Like Zhou Yu got a local magistrate because like when he was 20 years old, just because
Zhou Yu
his
didn't get to
family
be
connection.
king of Shu though either. So.
Yeah, Liu Bei, he got his first break during Yellow Turban Rebellion when he was 23. But then by the time he's 30, he was only a local magistrate. But then he got another he got another break when because the Yellow Turbans the Yellow Turban Rebellion was broken, but the Yellow Turban rebels are still everywhere. So the one of the prefect of Beihai, they were surrounded by Yellow Turbans, and he was asking for help. And Liu Bei answered the call. He borrowed some troops from his friends, and he went to help. So this is so he kind of made a name for himself as this helpful guy. that when the help needs, Liu Bei will come. And then later when Cao Cao led expedition against Xuzhou, the Xu prefecture, because the governor of Xu prefecture, Cao Cao blames the governor of Xu prefecture for killing for killing Cao Cao's father. So Cao Cao used as a pretext to conquer the Xu prefecture, and the prefect of Xu prefecture invited Liu Bei to come in to defend Xu prefecture, and at that time, when Liu Bei came, it just so happened Lu Bu attack Cao Cao in the rear, so Cao Cao have to return back, and so Liu Bei had that chance to entrench himself in the Xu prefecture, and the Xuzhou prefect. The prefect of Xu prefecture soon passed away, and that position then fell into Liu Bei's lap. So Liu Bei, in a way, he was presented in the Roman Three Kingdom as this very compassionate guy, like all around goody two shoes, right?
The word benevolent comes up a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, but if you look at his career, just like Genghis Khan, anyone who has been the former allies or the boss of Liu Bei, or the former allies and boss of Genghis Khan, they all got screwed.
Yeah.
somehow they all got screwed. So Liu Bei, he through whatever means, his charisma or ruthless manipulation, he started to become notable, and then because the emperor at the time, he was seeking a counterbalance to Cao Cao's newfound power, so he recognized Liu Bei's claim to the imperial lineage. So he had he conferred the title imperial uncle on Liu Bei, right? So now Liu Bei can go around and proclaiming himself being the imperial uncle, and that is additional prestige that attract people to him. But Liu Bei was allied with Yuan Shao in the Battle of Guandu, and he was defeated by Cao Cao. He fled to Jin Prefecture, and Liu Biao, Liu Bei and Liu Biao, they're like, okay, we're the same family, right? We're both related to the Han Emperor 360 years ago.
Yep.
So Liu Biao accepted because Liu Biao needed someone to serve as a buffer in the north to guard against Cao Cao. So Liu Biao put Liu Bei and his army to the north of him in Xinye, to be his wall against the Cao Cao's incursions. But now I want to actually spend some time talking about Liu Biao because he's the other faction that plays into this, and we already kind of talked about him last time, but he's a very interesting character because so compared to, he has the same remote claim to the Han imperial lineage and Liu Bei, but he came from a well-off family. He had family connections, so he had he was serving as an imperial bureaucrat for a long time, and then during the time when the coalition marched against Dongzhuo, Sun Jian, the patriarch of the Sun family, Sun Jian killed the prefect of the Jin prefecture on some trumped up charges. So Dongzhuo then appointed Liu Biao as a new prefect of the Jin prefecture. But when Liu Biao came to the Jin prefecture, he had nothing. He only had an empty title. Because all the land, all the cities were taken over by different clans. So Liu Biao realized, he had to work with the local powerful clans. So he gathered a bunch of local notables who he found he could work with. Then he devised a plan. They invited 55 those powerful local elite who have taken control of different cities in Jin prefecture. They invited them to a banquet. Right, so all of them came because he's still nominally imperially appointed prefect, and nobody saw Liu Biao as the threat, so they all came to his banquet. At this banquet, Liu Biao had all of them killed. So he killed 55 the head of these powerful clans and absorbed their followers, and with this he gained the control of the Jin prefecture. With the help of other powerful clans, and then when the coalition against Dongzhuo fell apart, particularly a split between the Yuan Su and Yuan Shao brothers, Liu Biao allied himself with Yuan Shao. Sun Jian allied himself with Yuan Su. That's how the two came into blows. And then with a stroke of luck, Liu Biao's underling end up ambushing in Sun Jian, and so that the Sun family's threat to Jin prefecture was removed for that time. So Liu Biao asserted his control over the entire Jin prefecture, except to the south in the Changsha commandery, which is the area around Hunan. The governor of Changsha commandery did not like Liu Biao, and he defected to Cao Cao, and Liu Biao couldn't do anything against him because all the expeditions sent Liu Biao south was defeated. But finally, his nemesis, the governor of Changsha commandery, died, and his young son was put in power. And then Liu Biao used that opportunity, finally conquered the south. So at that time, Liu Biao controlled this land all the way from Henan, almost up to the Yellow River, all the way down to Hunan. And he was even trying to extend his power further south to the Jiao prefecture, which is present-day Guangdong province and northern Vietnam. He tried to appoint his own man to be the head of the Jiao prefecture, but Cao Cao preempted him by appointing another a local man to serve as a local prefect. So at this point, when Yuan Shao and Cao Cao was facing off across the Yellow River during the Battle of Guandu, the follower of Liu Biao told him, like, look, you right now we have so much land and you have 100,000 troops. 100,000 troops, I think this is used metaphorically. It's more like you have tons of troops. Right now, you have tons of troops.
Yeah.
You have lots of
Heaps.
land.
Yep.
Right now, either you use this opportunity to take over yourself, or you choose to side with one of the strong factions. Either you side with Yuan Shao or Cao Cao. And they say, in fact, right now, Cao Cao is at a disadvantage. Yuan Shao outnumber him. So now if you come to Cao Cao's aid, he will appreciate your help more. You might be able to get more from Cao Cao if we throw our lots against with Cao Cao right now. But to that, Liu Biao is kind of like, no. He's like, no, this is fine. I'm right now. I'm not offending anybody, right? I can be friends with everyone. I just hold to the Jin prefecture. But his follower told him, look, by the time Yuan Shao and Cao Cao finish their battle, when one emerges as a winner, whoever it is, they will not appreciate you because you didn't come help during their fight. And then at that time, you're going to have a much bigger problem to deal with, because then whoever is a winner will control the entire northern China.
Yeah. And it's always a thing, isn't it? Because, Liu Bao is very important figure, really underrated. I mean, he was warlord of one of the biggest and richest provinces, and he died of illness at age 66. So his life is quite successful, but his followers are wondering what happens next, what comes after, and how do we preserve our position in that next phase. They've got concerns that he just doesn't have.
Oh yeah, exactly. And in fact, at this time, Liu Biao couldn't decide, so he decided to send one of his followers, Han Song, to see Cao Cao, to see basically to act as a spy. His follower Han Song said, look, right now I am your retainer. I am loyal to you, but now I am. By your orders, I go to the court. This is my duty, right? And from my observation, Cao Cao is a wise ruler. If we defect to Cao, if we surrender to Cao Cao, you're going to be set for life. And if this is your decision, you should name me the ambassador. I will help you. But however, if that's not your plan, if you still plan to sit on the fence and still naming ambassador to the imperial court, if the emperor give me title and position, then I will be loyal to the emperor. I will be loyal. I will be your former subject. I will be a loyal subject to the Han only now, to the Han emperor. So please think about it. Please, think about it before you make this decision. But Liu Biao thought Han Song just, is scared of going to Cao Cao's court. So he forcibly ordered Han Song to go. So when Han Song arrived in Cao Cao's court, as he was predicted, the emperor, maybe on Cao Cao's behalf, I don't know, granted Han Song, series of titles. And when he came back to Jin prefecture, he was start to singing the praise of Cao Cao and the court, and he was advising Liu Biao to send his sons as hostage to the Han court. So Liu Biao was so pissed, and he ordered this man Han Song seize and was gonna kill him. But Han Song says says, you betray me, and Han Song says, no, General, you betrayed me. I did not betray you. I have told you before, what I was gonna do. But Liu Biao still pissed though. He had this guy in prison. But this is kind of Liu Biao's. This episode shows the kind of the person Liu Biao is. He's not. He just want to preserve what he has. He doesn't have further ambition outside of the Jin. He was not the one who want to take all of China. And
it's a huge province. I mean, it's a lot. It takes a very rare individual to want more than that.
It's true. So when Liu Biao was Liu. I mean, there was another occasion when another warlord was defeated in the capital Chang'an area, and it was running out of supplies. Was passing through Jin Prefecture and attacking one of the Jin Prefecture city, but this general was died by a stray arrow. So everybody, all Liu Biao's followers, come to congratulate him, and Liu Biao said, "Well, this guy came here. He attacked our city is only because he was desperate. I didn't intend to kill him. In this case, I do not accept congratulations." And then he sent out messengers to recruit this warlord's surviving members, and then he said the nephew of this the deceased warlord as his buffer, Zhang Xiu, as at Wanchen, to guard his northern flank against Cao Cao. Now, Zhang Xiu and Cao Cao is gonna have another episode, which is beyond this our episode. So, but eventually Zhang Xiu had almost killed Cao Cao, but eventually they made up. Zhang Xiu surrendered once to Cao Cao. So now Liu Bei comes in. Liu Bei was defeated by Cao Cao. Liu Biao then put Liu Bei at Xinye again as a buffer against Cao Cao. And at this time, Liu Biao has two sons. His eldest son, looked like Liu Biao, so Liu Biao favored the eldest son. But then his younger son married the niece of his new wife. So I guess Liu Biao's main wife, who gave birth to his heirs, already died at this point. So Liu Biao had another wife. So his wife's niece married Liu Biao's second son. So of course Liu Biao's wife is gonna say badmouth his eldest son and say good about his niece's husband, the younger son.
It's funny, Carl. I always viewed this battle as being a Three Kingdoms thing, but the more you're explaining this, the more I'm looking at it, the more I'm realizing that this was a power vacuum forming in Jing province, and then the factions rushing in, which would then go on to form the Three Kingdoms. But it was the power vacuum that caused this conflict.
Exactly, and. So the two sons at this time, the eldest son, then he was afraid. He know like because Liu Biao's wife is coming from a powerful local clan, from the Cai clan. It's one of the clan that supported Liu Biao's rule in Jin Prefecture. So Liu Biao's eldest son then went to seek help from Liu Bei's advisor Zhuge Liang. And Zhuge Liang was kind of didn't want to say anything. This is your personal problem. This is your family problem. I don't want to get involved. So the eldest son Liu Qi, then he did this thing. He invited Zhuge Liang to have tea on the second floor. Then he ordered his servant to take away the ladder. So he trapped Zhuge Liang on the second floor and then forced Zhuge Liang to give him advice. And then Zhuge Liang told him, look, Zhuge Liang cited another historical precedent back in the spring-autumn period when there was a succession struggle. One of the duke's son remained. He died. The one that fled to the neighboring state survived. So and the eldest sons are like, okay, I just gotta leave the capital of the Jin Prefecture. So at this time, Sun Quan just happened to kill Huang Zu in his second campaign. They were threatening Shakou, which is a present-day Wuhan area. But for some reason, Sun Quan, the Wu family they couldn't hold on to that Wuhan area. They defeated Huang Zu multiple times, even killed Huang Zu, but they couldn't hold on to that area. So Liu Qi, the eldest son of Liu Biao, then he volunteered to replace Huang Zu as the governor of that place, of Shakou, the present-day Wuhan. Then Liu Biao gave him an army. Then he went to guard against Sun Quan's forces, and around this time, Liu Biao fell sick, and all the Liu Biao's wife prevented the eldest son from coming back because they're afraid that Liu Biao will change his plan at the last minute and make his eldest son the heir again. And so they waited until Liu Biao died and made his younger son the new ruler. So now, with this power vacuum, Cao Cao's attention is... Cao Cao has this time fully pacified North. In the 8 years' time, not only he defeated Yuan Shao's faction, he also wiped out the Yuan Shao's remnant in the 8 years. He fully controlled northern China. And when everybody heard Liu Biao die, that set the wheel in motion. Lu Su from Sun Quan's side already came to Jinzhou as a feeler to talk to Liu Bei. And Cao Cao mobilized his a huge army, marched south, and demanded the Jin prefecture surrender. Now the young son of Liu Biao, who just succeeded, he was about 17 years old. He convened a meeting. He wanted to resist, so he told his advisors, like, look, I inherited the Jin prefecture, my legacy of my father. How can I, please advise me, how can I hold on to it in the face of Cao Cao's attack? And can if we can hold on, we can just wait for our opportunity, right? Just he want to basically adopt the same stance that Liu Biao has followed. Just keep to the Jin prefecture and wait for and watch.
It's another classic theme that the son's being like, oh, everything could just stay the same as it always was, and change was coming. Nothing was going to stay the same.
Exactly, and his advisors his advisor said, like, no, well, right now Cao Cao has an emperor at his core. He is acting not as Cao Cao. He is acting in the name of the emperor. So if we go against Cao Cao, we're going against the imperial court. That's one. Two, you just succeeded to the throne. Like Jin prefecture is not stable. With our meager resources to resist the entire might of northern China, this is not wise. This is very dangerous. That's two. And number three, the only one we can depend upon to resist Cao Cao is Liu Bei, right? This is not a wise thing to do, because he said, General, how do you think yourself compared to Liu Bei? And so the 17-year-old Liu Cong said, I'm not, Liu Bei is better than me. Then his advisor expanded on that, say, look, if Liu Bei could not resist Cao Cao, then then there's nothing stopping Cao Cao from taking over Jin prefecture. But on the other hand, if the Liu Bei can successfully repel Cao Cao's attack, then the Jin prefecture will no longer be yours. Liu Bei would have such prestige. He will be able to control the entire Jin prefecture. So either you surrender or not, the Jin prefecture will no longer be yours. And at this point, Liu Cong basically had no choice because all his advisors wanted to surrender to Cao Cao. So they decided to send a secret message to Cao Cao. They're going to surrender Jin prefecture, but they decided not to tell Liu Bei because they don't trust Liu Bei. No. and
well, he doesn't like South South, so he's going to fight, no matter what.
Because Liu Bei is still in the front lines. So Liu Bei only found out when the Cao Cao's army already arrived, and then he found out that the lord of Jin prefecture, Liu Cong, has already surrendered. So at this time, Liu Bei's advisor Zhuge Liang advised him, like, look, this is our opportunity just to attack Xiangyang, the capital of Jin prefecture, to take it over. Take the Jin prefecture for yourself, and then you have the resources to resist Cao Cao. and Liu Bei decided against that. So he ordered a withdrew, and a lot of the local people, because of Liu Bei's fame, when they're running away from the Cao Cao invading army, they decide to go with Liu Bei. So that really hindered Liu Bei's progress. Liu Bei's army was moving very slow because the road was clogged up with refugees who were fleeing with him. And Liu Bei's plan was to go south to this place called Jiangling on the Yangtze River.
Yeah, which was a major naval base, I believe.
Yes, and Cao Cao got a wind of that. He knew that Jiangling is where Liu Biao had stockpiled a lot of supplies and is a well-built fortress. So he didn't want Liu Bei to get there before he did. Then Liu Bei will have a secure base to resist him. So he ditched his rest of his troop. He ordered up 5,000 light cavalry to make haste to chase down Liu Bei. And they finally caught up Liu Bei's train at a place called Changbanpo, and it was a massacre because Liu Bei's forces weren't enough to resist Cao Cao's cavalry, and Liu Bei lost his both of his wife and his baby son to be captured by Cao Cao's forces. It was only because one of the Liu Bei's bodyguard, Zhao Yun, who went back into the Cao Cao's camp to single-handedly rescue Liu Bei's wife and his baby son, and then the Liu Bei's sworn brother Zhang Fei, he posed himself at the Changban Bridge, and he yelled at the coming Cao Cao army, said, I am Zhang Fei of Yan, who wants to come and fight me to the death, and nobody dared to approach. So that bought Liu Bei some time to finally make escape, and then he joined his second sworn brother Guan Yu's navy. They sailed down the Han River, and then they went to Xiakou, which is present-day Wuhan, where Liu Bei met with Liu Biao's eldest son, who was stationed there. So this is when the emissary from Wu arrived, when Lu Su arrived at the Liu Bei's camp. In the aftermath of Liu Bei's disastrous defeat at Changban, and Lu Su now asked Liu Bei, so like, okay, what is your plan? Liu Bei said, I have a good friend who is much further south in Changwu, which is present day like Guangxi province. He said, I have a good friend in Changwu. I'm gonna go there to join him. And Lu Su gave him the same spiel that Zhou Yu gave to Lu Su earlier. Lu Su said, look, this is time when Cao Cao is approaching. You don't want to join your hand with a weaker forces, right? And Sun Quan, my ruler, he commands a huge tracts of land in the land south of the river. He has tons of troops. Now, if you can join forces with us, we might be able to make a stand and repel Cao Cao. And Liu Bei was ecstatic. And Lu Su also told Zhuge Liang, Liu Bei's advisor, look, your older brother Zhuge Jin is already serving Sun Quan. I am actually good friend with your brother Zhuge Jin. So Zhuge Liang then made a decision to come back with Lu Su to the Wu court to basically seal the alliance. And when Zhuge Liang and Lu Su arrived, they sailed down the Yangtze River into the capital of Sun Quan. The Sun camp also received a letter from Cao Cao, and Cao Cao said, "I command 800,000 troops, both by land and water." And the leader of Jin Prefecture, Liu Cong, already surrendered. I look forward to hunt with you, General Sun Quan. Like this is like a unveiled threat, right? And it just asked him to surrender. So there was a lively discussion at this time at the Wu court.
It's not a bad approach to take, though, to be like, hello, I'm here with my big army, and of course you're loyal to the imperial court, aren't you? You know, and a very sensible thing might say, oh yes, we've always been loyal to the imperial court.
So at this time, basically, Cao Cao just acquired a huge tracts of land without barely any, barely lifting a finger, except the massacre at Changban. He met no resistance, and Cao Cao. One of Cao Cao's advisors, Chen Yu, actually told him, it's like, now it's the time to consolidate your hold on the Jin prefecture. And after we consolidate in Jin, Sun Quan will have no choice but to submit. But Cao Cao did not agree because he felt like the momentum is on his hand.
Yep.
His army is already on the move. Now like we have a huge army on the move. We have the momentum. We can do that. All we have to do is sail down the river, right? And like with his letter of threat arriving at the Wu court, there was a lively discussion, and most of the Sun Quan's advisor wanted to surrender, just like Liu Biao's advisors. They all wanted to surrender.
So I would say, I mean, we're going to, do a lot of wasn't Cao Cao silly as this goes on. But at this moment, he's got 800,000 men in the field. He's been paying for this. It's amounts of wealth that we can't imagine, and you're not going to let that go. You're on the advance, and you've got the army together. You never know when you're ever going to be able to assemble a force like that again. So I do think that even though it turns out he was overextended, the decision to push on with force, it's hard to really question.
Oh yeah. And so at this time, everybody, like almost everybody in the Sun court was saying, okay, well, let's just surrender. And Sun Quan didn't want to say it. Sun Quan didn't say anything, but everyone was saying, look, Cao Cao's force is almost impossible to resist. He already have Jin prefecture, and Zhang Zhao, one of the main advisor, he said, look, one of our defenses is the Yangtse River. Now that Cao Cao have in control of the Jin prefecture, they share the Yangtze River with us, right? And we don't have this barrier anymore. So right now Cao Cao is acting in the name of the emperor to go against the imperial decree will make us we do not have the you'll make us rebels for going against the imperial decree. And the best case now, if we surrender now, maybe we can still have negotiate better terms, right? So, and now Lu Su came back, and Sun Quan didn't say anything at the court, and Sun Quan got up to go to the bathroom, so Lu Su followed Sun Quan, and Lu Su said, look, all these people, don't listen to them. Their advice will bring you to ruin. Will be the death of you. Today, me, Lu Su, I can surrender to Cao Cao. That's not a problem, but you cannot. Because if I surrender to Cao Cao, the worst that will happen is Cao Cao will order me to go back to my hometown, and then because of my connection, I will be made a local magistrate, and then because of my connection and my talent, I will rise through the ranks. Eventually, I can easily be made a governor of a prefecture, right? And so there's not, there's really not too much downside for me to surrender to Cao Cao. I get to, and like the rest of your advisors too, they mostly get to keep their position and their wealth. But if you surrender to Cao Cao, where is Cao Cao gonna put you? Right, and then this is so everybody is thinking for themselves when they're offering this advice, but this advice is not in your best interest.
I would also say that, this is one of the things that, most of the advisors in the court probably weren't sailors or mariners or naval fighters, however you want to describe it. But those that would have known that at this moment, when the Northern Army is inexperienced in fighting on the water, is their absolute best moment to fight. And if they give the forces of Wei a couple of years, operating on the Yangtze, they're going to smash them. So it's sort of the last best moment to resist.
That's actually a good point, because later, a thousand year later, during the Mongol conquest of southern China, the Yuan dynasty spent 6 years sieging Xiangyang. Xiangyang is the capital of the Jin prefecture in the Han dynasty. Mongol forces spent 6 years siege the Xiangyang city, and during that time, the Yuan dynasty, they used a famous defected Song dynasty general to train a navy for them on the Han River. So at the end of the 6 years, after the Mongols, the Yuan dynasty finally controlled city of Xiangyang, they just sailed down the Han River with their newly trained navy and totally smashed through all the Song dynasty defenses and very quickly conquered the entire southern China. So you're absolutely right. But Cao Cao at this time, he didn't have 6 years to train a new navy, and so Sun Quan, with this Lu Su's voice his opinion, Sun Quan says, "Oh man, finally you came back. Nobody. I'm the only right now. Like I'm isolated in the court. Everybody is voicing surrender. Thank God you are thinking the same thoughts that I am." And so Lu Su reminded Sun Quan, like, look, like when your brother died, he said all the military matters you must refer to Zhou Yu, right? So right now Zhou Yu is still in the front line. Let's call Zhou Yu back. Let's consult with Zhou Yu. And so they at this time Zhuge Liang is also at the court, and he decided to add a little screw to Sun Quan. So he told basically he told during the discussion, Zhuge Liang proposed that they so Zhuge Liang said, while everyone was saying the Sun Quan should surrender, Zhuge Liang agreed with them. So he said, yes, General, you should listen to your advisors. You should just send your hostage to Cao Cao now. And Sun Quan was very angry. He didn't expect that. He was expecting Zhuge Liang offering alliance. And he said, why didn't your master, why didn't Liu Bei surrender then? And Zhuge Liang said, well, look, Liu Bei's fame is all known all throughout the land, and people come to follow him like the river joining the sea. In the ancient, he is citing ancient history of a warring states period when the Qin state finally unified China, wipe out the other 6 states. But one of the states, the state of Qi, the last ruler state of Qi, he refused to surrender, and all his followers they committed ritual suicide rather than surrender to Qin. So Zhuge Liang says, back in those days, the last ruler of Qi would do that. Now my master Liu Bei, we have all the expectations of the people under heaven upon his shoulder. The last thing he would do is to besmirch his own fame by surrendering to Cao Cao. Like, at least we need to try to resist. If we fail, then it's a fate that's determined by heaven. It's not because of lack of effort. Then Sun Quan at this point is pretty much decided that he's gonna fight, but they needed to weigh to Zhou Yu to weigh in his military expert opinion to persuade the others. So then Zhou Yu finally came to court after a couple of days, and he said, there's no way, no, do not surrender. We right now, Zhou Yu says, look, there's 3 reasons why we shouldn't surrender. One, Cao Cao, even though he nominally controlled northern China, but he still have Ma Cao in his west, threatening his flank. That's number 1. 2, right now it's in the winter time. Cao Cao's main strength is his cavalry. His cavalry is lacking fodders right now. And 3, the northerners, they're not familiar with naval fighting. And this is, Cao Cao is taking away his own advantage with his cavalry and then trying to practice naval warfare. This is Cao Cao's disadvantage. And also, Cao Cao's army have marched so far from the Yellow River Valley. They're tired and they're not used to the local condition. Many of them are becoming sick. The disease. So for sure, disease is gonna break out in their ranks. And Zhou Yu asked for. He said, and Zhou Yu also he broke it down in detail. He said Cao Cao claims he had 800,000 men. But let's look at how many people he really have. Cao Cao's own troops is at most 150,000, 160,000, and they're already tired. Marching so far to the Yangtze River Valley.
It's not just marching the distance. They're sleeping outside night after night after night. And yes, they probably had tents and some degree of shelter. But it really wears down troops' condition the longer they're in the field. I think the English in the 100 Years' War found that after 6 weeks of campaigning, the bowmen literally couldn't draw the bows because they'd lost the strength.
Yeah, another problem is, when you have so many people together,
disease.
The camp hygiene. Yeah, camp hygiene became super important because, all those people are shitting together. If you don't have like a good, latrine system, you're going to have disease break out very soon.
Yeah, and with an army that big, you've got to walk a long way not to be, defecating in someone else's drinking water.
Exactly. And then he said, other than Cao Cao's 150,000 troops, the troops that he gained in the Jin province are at most 70,000-80,000, and those troops' loyalty is not reliable.
Yeah.
they're new troops, and then you have so you have all these troops who just arrived from the north who are prone to disease and do not know the local condition. Have these ones commanding the ones whose loyalty is still wavering. Even though they have a lot of people, but this is not we don't have to worry about it. Just give me 50,000 elite troops. I can stop them. Don't worry. So
50,000 troops who know how to fight at sea is that's a big investment.
Yeah. So Sun Quan says, this is exactly what I was thinking. But it's hard to gather 50,000 troops in a short time notice. But we already have 30,000 troops for you with all the supplies and ships and everything. So here I give you 30,000 troops with the supplies, and we are going to fight it out with Cao Cao. And then Sun Quan, in front of everyone, he took out his sword. He cut off a corner of his wooden table. He said, "From now on, anyone who still suggests surrender, they will suffer the same fate as this table." And this at this point, Zhuge Liang said, "Okay, look, Liu Bei still have 10,000 troops. And the Liu Biao's oldest son Liu Qi has another 10,000 troops. So we have 20,000 troops at our disposal. And add together with Zhou Yu's 30,000 troops, now we have 50,000 troops. And so Zhou Yu at this time, he was probably lowballing Cao Cao's forces. He estimated Cao Cao's forces somewhere between 220,000 to 240,000. But I read some estimate that at this time Cao Cao's forces was totaling 260,000. But then again, because a lot of troops have to be sent away on garrison duty, so the numbers that Cao Cao could muster is actually around 200,000. But still,
at this point, when your army's this big, you huge numbers of troops are just going out and trying to find food for the rest. I mean, it's a large amorphous sort of mass.
Yeah. I mean, right now it's still a huge numerical disparity. It's 50,000 versus 200,000. So it's like 4-1, right? They're outnumbered 4-1.
No, if they'd fought on land, it would have been over very quickly. But they were not fighting on land. Exactly.
So now Cao Cao So Zhou Yu sailed his naval force upstream. They met with Liu Bei's forces in Shakou, so that's the present-day Wuhan area. And at this time, Cao Cao's forces already made it overland to Jiangling. Jiangling, as I said, was on the Yangtse River. That was a place that Liu Bei originally was going to go, and because it has a stockpiles of weapons and it was a strong fortified position. So at this point, a map will be nice.
Trust me, I've got one off Wikipedia. It'll
got it.
Yeah,
yeah, that's a good map. So Cao Cao is now setting up camp in the Jiangling, little bit upstream on the Yangtze River. Liu Bei and Sun Quan, their allied army, is sitting in Shakou, which is at the intersection of the Han River and the Yangtze River.
Yeah,
at
very
the present day.
place.
The present day Wuhan area. So together they sail upstream to meet Cao Cao's forces. Now at this time, disease already broke out in Cao Cao's camp. Like you said, when you have 200,000 men together, that poop is all that poop is going somewhere. And the first battle, Cao Cao's troops was unprepared. They were defeated. They didn't expect, the Sun Quan and Liu Bei would actually attack them. They thought they would just sail down the river. It's an easy victory. So they were taken by surprise. They were defeated, and the Cao Cao withdrew to his camp in Wuding. Now at this point, so one of the problem is that northerners, in northern China there's few water, so they're not used to fight on water. So somebody gave Cao Cao advice of like what we can do is because people those northerners are liable to get seasick when they get in new boats. But
I do love the idea of seasickness on the Yangtze, and I mean I've been on that river. It's not the biggest waves, so I think they're just talking about unfamiliarity with boats when they talk about seasickness. But I could be wrong.
So they someone offered advice to Cao Cao. We have thousands of Mengcong. These are battleships from Jing province. We have thousands of Mengcong. Now, if we can tie them together and then put planks on above, then you can have horses running around.
Yeah. This is a classic thing when you have leaders who are inexperienced with fighting on water. Is they often it's happened lots and lots of times in different places around the world. They think, if we just tie them all together, then it'll be like we're on land, and everything will be great. And as this is going to unfold. This is the first part of disaster. I would also say that when they withdrew to Wulin, what they, as inexperienced mariners, didn't understand was that they had set themselves up on what's called a lee shore, which means the wind is blowing onto their shore. And
yes,
it means it's very hard to move off it. And what they did by moving there was to hand the other side what's called in naval battles the weather gauge, which means if you've got the wind behind you, you can go anywhere. You've got all the mobility, all the speed, all the directions. Whereas if you're in the opposite position, there's almost nothing you can do to move. And if you don't know how dangerous that is, you wouldn't even. It's very easy to just get blown into that position.
Yeah. So when somebody first, when some other advisors also say like, wait, if we tie our boats together, you might make it more stable, but then it will make them vulnerable to fire attack, right?
Yep.
And
anytime you concentrate your fleet and you place yourself downwind, the other side is thinking, can we get some fire barges in there? This is from the dawn of naval warfare until the arrival of ironclads. This was a universal.
Yep, and at this time, it's Cao Cao dismisses like, now we're in winter time. Come on, the wind is blowing from northwest. The wind is blowing from our back. If they're gonna light fires, they're gonna burn themselves. But what Cao Cao did not know is that the place where he's stationed, like you said, where they stationed their boat is a very special geological condition, because there's in the northwest, there's a big lake. Right, and in the southeast there's mountains, and when the mountains and the lake they hold the heat differently.
Okay.
Right? And because during the mountains the heat dissipate faster, and whereas the lake hold up the heat much better. So what happened is the different heat differential caused a southeastern wind. It's just in this locality, but you would not know. But this is the local
knowledge of experience.
Yes, you would not know that unless you grow up on the bank of Yangtze River and know this area. And this is something that Cao Cao would not have expected. So when all said and done, and Zhou Yu decided, okay, this is a perfect setup for fire attack, and so, but they still need to figure out a way how to get their fire ship as close as possible to burn Cao Cao's fleet. So this is where they do a little. There's a lot of maneuvering right now. So first Cao Cao send like a spy into Zhou Yu's camp, also try to persuade Zhou Yu to surrender. This guy Zhang Gan, his hometown and Zhou Yu's hometown are neighboring towns. So he used that as a pretext to visit Zhou Yu. So like, I always heard your name. We're kind of neighbors. We're almost like from the same area.
I live around here. Yeah, classic.
yeah. So Zhou Yu hosted him for 3 days and 3 nights, and even invited him to go see his barrack to inspect his troops. And initially Zhou Yu said, "Did you come here to pursue me to surrender on behalf of Cao Cao?" Jiang Gai's like, no, come on, like I'm just here because I heard your fame. And then Zhou Yu entertained the guy for 3 days and 3 nights, and he said, look, the ruler Wu treat me as family, and they place complete trust in me. Where else am I gonna get the same gig? Right? It's like, so Jiang Gang went back and he told Cao Cao there's no way Zhou Yu himself would surrender. But then Zhou Yu then set up his underling, his sub-commander Huang Gai, to send a letter of surrender to Cao Cao, and on the set date, he had 100 fire ships. These are 蒙虫. They loaded up these ship with straws and all kind of flammables. They soak the straw in oil.
Yep.
And then they start with a southeastern wind blowing. They all raise up the sail, so they were sailing straight into the Cao Cao's camp. And during that time, the Cao Cao, so the Cao Cao's troops totally didn't expect. They had Huang Gai had his soldiers standing on the bow yelling, "Surrender, surrender!"
Yeah, and it's really worth noting that, I mean, particularly in warlord style warfare all over the world, all through history, changing sides on the day of the battle or just before the battle and bribing opposition generals to change sides is a really normal part of things. This would have, Cao Cao would have thought this was just because he was so great and because he was going to win. It would be completely normal for him to think that this guy's changing sides and he's bringing his ships over.
Yeah, so Huang Gai and led the tens of these 蒙虫 with loaded with combustibles, sailing right into the Cao Cao's camp. And all the Cao Cao's soldiers, they were not on guard. They all came out to watch the surrender. and then while they're still about 1 kilometer away, Huang Gai ordered lighting up the ships. So at the time, these ships very soon caught fire, and they're like fireballs hurling into Cao Cao's naval camp. But I mean, there's apparently still some resistance because Huang Gai was shot by an arrow and he fell into the water, and he was rescued by the General Han Dang's troops, and they didn't even, when they fished him out of the water, they didn't even recognize Huang Gai, who he is, and then Huang Gai have to yell, "I am Huang Gai," and they finally realize he's one of their general, and then they devoted much care to him, finally saved his life. But at this time, the fire quickly caught on not just Cao Cao's fleet on the river, but the wind was blowing the fire to the Cao Cao's camp on land.
Yeah.
So there was a big conflagration, and at this time, the Liu Bei and Sun Quan's troops, they took the advantage of the chaos, crossed the river, and then attacked Cao Cao in the rear. So this was one of the biggest defeat that Cao Cao ever suffered. And some estimates said Cao Cao lost 100,000 men in the aftermath of the Battle of Chibi. I mean, this battle completely changed the power balance, because prior to Battle of Chibi, Red Cliff, Cao Cao was poised to unify all of China.
Yeah.
If Sun Quan had surrendered, like his advisors wanted, that would be it. That would be like Cao Cao is, ushering a new dynasty or unify China. But because of this, Cao Cao would, as you say, would never be able to muster another force this big to threaten the land south of the Yangtze River. And the force of Liu Bei and Sun Quan were able to carve up 2 kingdoms in the south. So that finally became the 3 kingdoms. With Cao Cao's kingdom in the north, and then Liu Bei in the west, and the Sun Quan's in the southeast. So this is why it's such an important pivotal battle. But like you say, at the time, it's kind of hard to predict the outcome. When we read a lot of these accounts, it's almost like predestined Cao Cao is going to lose. But back then, Cao Cao had all the momentum on his side. There's no reason for him not to press on to press on to his advantage. But it's just the combined luck, bad luck, inexperience, and naval battle. And this led to one of his greatest defeat. Yeah,
we mentioned this before, that the Themistocles is attributed a quote to him. He was one of the ancient Greek admirals, that the wind and the waves are on the side of the ablest mariner, and the kingdom of Wu, or at least the Sun family, on a couple of occasions, obviously the wind and the waves were on their side because they knew the river and they knew how to fight on water. And, the other sides would just, where are these fire ships coming from? Why is the wind against me? And it just really goes to show how important experience is in naval warfare. Whereas on land, a really big army, even if it's poorly led, can still prevail just with weight of numbers.
Yep. And this is one of the famous battles because it's such 50,000 versus 200,000. So one of the famous battles in China that happened.
Yeah, but I almost feel sorry for Cao Cao's forces. That they get. That they've lost a classic Sun Tzu thing. They've lost the battle before it begins because they didn't understand the peril of their situation, being on the lee shore for where the wind was going to blow, and not knowing that the wind was going to shift. And then the subterfuge with Huang Gai is interesting, but I'm not sure. I think this would have worked even without it. It certainly made it more effective, maybe, but they would just.
How are you gonna stop these ships that's on full sail? With the wind coming bearing right at you with fire.
Yeah, well, you got to get the ships moving.
Yeah, maybe if they had some kind of iron chain on the river that blocking the incoming ship, but at this time. Cao Cao wasn't on the defense; he was on the offense.
Yeah,
he was expecting to sail down the river downstream. He wasn't prepared engaging a defensive naval warfare.
And it's a big chain you need for the Yangtze River. That's that's not a small one.
and it doesn't always work because there are other instances later in Chinese history where that has been tried when people put iron chains across the river.
But you've got to defend both sides, otherwise it just sinks to the bottom.
Yeah, but no, because when the iron ship ran through, because the fire burns so hot, you can burn through the chains, and you still ran through. So it's really hard. It's really hard to block the fire ships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, and obviously the consequence of the battle was essentially that the two kingdoms formed in the south as a counterweight to Cao Cao's northern kingdom, and several hundred years then, wasn't it, of Chinese history unfolds with these three separate kingdoms.
Yeah, 100 years.
100 years,
three kingdoms period, and so this is the birth of the three kingdoms. It's this battle.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking us through that, Carl.
Well, thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I hope I did it some justice.
Yeah, well, it's a fascinating story. Now, for my listeners and viewers, can you tell us where they can find you?
Oh, okay. I'm pretty active on Twitter, so my Twitter handle is just Carl Zha, my name. My name is spelled with a C, Carl. Zha, and I'm also have I have a Patreon for my Chinese history podcast. So search for Silk and Steel podcast on Patreon, or just search Silk on Patreon. But the first result will be my podcast, Silk and Steel podcast, where I talk a lot about Chinese history. I have a chronological retelling of the Chinese history, and I'm also doing concurrently I'm doing a Chinese Civil War series of the more recent Civil War, the 1940s to 1950, and much more. So people welcome to check that out.
Fantastic. And if anyone is listening from your side, I have a podcast called Totally Tanked and a YouTube channel called Every Naval Battle in History. So if anyone wants to come check that out, that would be awesome. Wow. Thank you, Carl. I think we might leave it there, but I hope you have a fantastic weekend.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, have a good one.